Hail adventurers! Pwn Star here with Pwn Star Gaming. Guys, how are you today? We are going to talk about the state of Fury Warriors, and is it any good though? If you're like me and you like to bash on things with giant uh, great axes in your hands or in front of you or all around you, well then Fury Warrior is definitely for you. There's been a lot of talk about Fury Warriors lately, and I guess you could say kind of their climb to greatness. We're going to talk all about that and more, so sit back, grab yourself a beer, and let's talk about it. First off, let me just start this off by saying that I've played just about, for sure, every single class there is, and to some extent, whether it be raiding or PvP, I've done a little bit of it all. Now, I will say that Fury Warrior is by far, in my opinion, the most fun class that there is, because of how fluid the transitions between the movements are, and everything seems to fit perfectly in sync with one another. It's rare that whatever the given rotation is for the current expansion or whatever feels clunky or anything like that, or it just feels out of place. You know what I'm talking about? Those specs can, while sometimes be extremely powerful, just feel kind of boring. And Fury Warrior doesn't ever have me feeling that way. It has me feeling like I'm always doing something or seeing my guy do some sort of damage, whether it be big as it currently is now in Cleave fights or small as it was at the beginning of this expansion. In December, we actually received a 5% buff. January, we received an 8% buff, and February, we received a 3% buff, for a total of 16% in total buffs. We started somewhere, actually for sure, at the very bottom of the DPS rankings for Castle Nathria when I had first started doing the DPS rankings. All the way now, we are at 11th place on the DPS rankings. That's pretty impressive, actually. And yes, thank you, Blizzard, very much. But that should kind of go to show you how much that Fury Warrior is fun. I don't know of any Fury Warriors that stopped playing their class because they were at the low end of the totem pole. They just kind of persevered through it and knew that Blizzard would see that this class is fun and they don't need to be at the bottom, and we need to push them up. So one thing that Fury Warriors really stand out on is Cleave fights. If you take a look at Castle Nathria and like the Sun King's fight, I mean, we sit around second place on Heroic, and then third, and we are actually over balanced Druids in Mythic. We are behind the different Arcane, and I believe it's Fire Mages, you'll see in the chart here. But, sitting at third place in Mythic and second on Heroic, I mean, that's a really big accomplishment for that particular fight. So that should show you kind of where our cleave damage is. And, like I was talking about earlier, just bashing things all around you. The whirlwind ability just really fine-tunes and makes everything seem so much fun as you spin around like a crazy madman. And then all of a sudden your abilities start to do massive AoE damage. And you can hear the clank of your swords or the bash of your maces as they just pummel into whatever creature it is that you are just decimating as a Fury Warrior. At the beginning of the expansion, finding a group for Mythic Plus, which is what I was really heavily doing, it was kind of rough, I'm not gonna lie. I would actually get messaged and asked, hey, are you Arms or Fury? And I would say Fury, and I knew that I wasn't gonna get an invite, and that's exactly it. Suddenly I don't hear back from them. So I did what any smart person would do, and I just started running my own keys and creating my own groups, and that kind of solved the problem. But at the same time, I was, we'll call it, key locked to whatever key I had. Eventually, it just kind of became much easier just to do my own key and hope for the best versus trying to continue to run wherever the best in slot piece of gear was and upgrade whoever else's key. Nowadays, people have realized that Fury Warrior is really good at Cleave, especially with the 16% total buffs that we've gotten, and also even a big buff for Whirlwind, which is what makes all of our attacks do area effect damage. Because of that, a Fury Warrior is actually really good for Mythic Plus content. Because think about it, outside of the bosses, every single fight is a Cleave fight. It's very rare that you pull one monster on your way to the boss in Mythic Plus. Also, they do have a small amount of utility. I mean, the Battle Shout is definitely really helpful, especially if you've got a rogue or a hunter or any kind of melee class in your group. And then also, you know, the commanding shout where it gives the HP buff to everybody for a little bit. That's really helpful for oh shit moments. As far as legendaries, when I had started, everybody was running Deathmaker so that your rampages would put Siegebreaker on the monsters and ultimately you'd do 15% more damage. I did that up until recently. It's kind of funny. After I made the Fury DPS guide on this same channel, make sure you go check it out, give it a like, all that cool stuff. I had even talked about how I was excited to get my Signet, and that's exactly how it is. The Signet of Tormented Kings is awesome. I mean, you do it. If you are doing single target, you just /cancel aura on the Blade Storm, and I mean, you're good to go. That right there is just demolishing all kinds of charts on DPS. I am constantly seeing myself at the top on the Mythic Plus dungeons that I'm doing, and even in PvP, I'm noticing that my overall damage is much higher. I'm getting more burst damage. It's very strong. If you don't have one, get one. Expect nerfs soon, for sure. All right, let's talk about Fury Warriors and basically what we're good at versus what we are not good at. And let's start off with PvP. Battlegrounds and rated battlegrounds alike, same thing really, just more competitive versus casual. Either way, Fury Warriors are awesome. They have survivability, they have mobility, and they have some really strong bursts that still carries on a strong tune after the burst is over. Seriously, play Death Wish with a healer following you, grab a Berserker buff, and tell me that you aren't just plowing through people with cloth or leather armor. It is insane the amount of damage that you do and how fast mages and warlocks, even sometimes priests, hunters, all those just get demolished. I will say, versus another plate wearing person, that does take a little bit longer, but I would say that you definitely have the upper hand, especially if you are at 10 stacks of Death Wish and you obviously have a Berserker buff. It is insane amount of damage. Pair that with the mobility, the ability to just charge in there, bash on somebody. If you feel like you're in danger, you can just leap on out of danger, and then you can even intercept one of your allies to get even further away. By that time, hopefully your healers have replenished your hit points, and you can just get right back in there to bashing on things with your axes or hammers or whatever it is that you've got. Now, arenas are a little bit different. They're just not that great in arenas. There just really isn't enough peel to get them, to help peel off of your healers, and they tend to get focused early on because, outside of their self-healing that happens throughout the damage they do, if they're locked down, then obviously they're not doing any self-healing. Fury Warriors just really don't fare off as well in arenas as they do in the battlegrounds. That being said, they aren't just undoable. Definitely you can, get up some rating and probably get your Vicious War Spider, but past that, I wouldn't, count on making it into like Gladiator or anything crazy like that, right? back onto the bright side of things, Mythic Plus, I truly believe that this is where they shine because of the fact that you are constantly pulling, cleave fights. Just about every single fight you do is a cleave fight. Even some boss fights are cleave fights. So therefore, that's where they shine, is in cleave damage. So they do outstanding in Mythic Plus. With that being said, once again, cleave fights for rage, which, as you guys know, Castle Nathria has quite a bit of cleave fights. Therefore, I think Fury Warriors do an outstanding job in raid. As far as single target goes, they do okay. They don't do amazing, but they definitely aren't at the bottom like they were at the beginning of this expansion. Thank you once again, Blizzard, for that 16% buff. And to kind of finish things off, I would definitely say that as the expansion progresses on, warriors get more geared and in tune with their rotations and things like that. That warriors are just you're gonna see them go up and up and up. Have you guys noticed that at just about every single expansion, warriors tend to always increase higher and higher in the DPS rankings? And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that warriors are so gear dependent. Not that every other class isn't, but warriors are so gear dependent that as the gear progresses and gets stronger and stronger, so does their damage output. And because of that, when 9.0.5 comes around, or 9.1 or whatever, I just see us going further and further up. I would really like to see Fury Warriors at the very top of the DPS rankings for whatever raid is next, or Mythic Plus, or any of that stuff. And I do think it is obtainable. And I'm going to say it now. I do think they will be number one on one of those DPS. Other than that, guys, that's it for today. Make sure and check in every Monday or Tuesday for my weekly news and weekly guides and all that good stuff, where you can get your mythic affixes and your world boss, all that fun stuff. Make sure and like, comment, subscribe. I'll be doing lots more Fury Warrior content, as Fury Warrior is obviously my favorite class there is. Guys, have a good one. I'll see you next time.